to We Want Picks. This is the only channel dedicated to UFC fight picks, DraftKings lineups, betting guides, and your fantasy plays run by professional fighters and MMA insiders. We are going to do the full breakdown for UFC Vegas 29, Korean Zombie versus Ige live. We're doing this live. We've never done it before live like this. We're doing it. So that means we may not be able to pay attention to the chat. So feel free to comment, talk to each other in there. Don't expect us to reply to every single one. We'll see how this goes, but we are going to break down every single fight. We're going to give you our picks. We're going to give you our fantasy plays. We're going to give you our bets. Today, it is just me and Jacob. Dan is on a work trip. We all have normal jobs. Dan is on a work trip. He will be here for all of our normal Friday stuff, but he is not here today.
So, first up.
So let's kick this off. First up,
we've got an interesting fight here, a tricky fight.
Okay, I told you we need to do this and pretend we're not live, Jacob. And the first thing you did,
I'm off the leash now. I'm off the leash now. You can't edit me out.
First up at UFC Vegas 29, we have Khaos Williams versus Matthew Semelsberger. Semelsberger is riding a 5-fight win streak. He is the underdog versus Khaos Williams, who has power 4 days. He is 4-1 in his last 5, and he is coming off of a decision loss to Michel Pereira, which I think he won. I think most people think he won that fight. But either way, we have two guys that are streaking really well. This is a solid matchup. I agree with the betting odds. I think Khaos Williams should be the favorite. With that being said, Semelsberger is live, and it's a really, really good matchup. This entire card, there's a bunch of fights where both guys are not very good, but it's still a good matchup because they're not very good. It'll be entertaining. There's a couple of fights where both guys are very good. This card, I would say this entire card is almost pick'em type fights. A couple of them are trash. A lot of them are very good matchups. This is a very good matchup and will determine the trajectory of one of these guys' careers. So before I do my breakdown, Jacob, I will let you go first. Why don't you go ahead and do yours?
You already did. You already did half a breakdown, but if you want to say I go first,
I did an intro. I'm trying to be more professional.
No, I get it. There's no Dan here, so we got to fill the time somehow, So, yeah, like you mentioned, this card. There's a lot of pickups on this card. There is a lot of choices for me for lock of the week because I have picked so many underdogs on this card. It's crazy. And I think Semelsberger is one of them. Listen, Khaos was on a wild streak. He fought Michel Pereira. And it seems like every time we talk about somebody fighting Michel Pereira, we always say like that doesn't really count because Michel Pereira is just so weird in the way he fights that it's kind of hard to tell if someone can actually fight when they fight Michel because you have to fight so weirdly defensively. With that said, he does have crazy power, and I see this as more of a volume versus power. I don't know if you kind of see that same thing. I like Matthew with his volume. I like him to be able to use his kicks early to kind of take that power away from Khaos. And if he can do that, I think he can just kind of overwhelm Khaos. And I think this is, it's I guess not a shame that this is the first fight we did, but I honestly, I think this is going to be the fight of the night. I think it's going to be crazy one way or the other, or a complete war. If the main event isn't, I'd go to this one for fight of the night for sure. But I think Matthew finds a way with his volume, with his kicks especially, to slow down Khaos, and I think he wins the fight.
It's definitely an interesting matchup. So we're starting the show off. We disagree. I disagree. I do think Semelsberger. You said Semelsberger's going to win, right?
I did, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. I disagree. I think Semelsberger's going to lose. He does march forward. He has a very aggressive style. He marches forward. He has solid leg kicks. He does nice body work, meaning he goes to the body a lot. And I love when fighters do that because that's basically an investment later in the fight, right? You beat up somebody's stomach now, you kick up their legs now, rounds 2, rounds 3, all of a sudden, maybe you take some of the power of Khaos away. So I do like sort of Matt and that approach and how he does work the body and the legs. The problem is Khaos Williams also walks people down. Matt Semelsberger just like charges forward, where Khaos walks you down as he's coming forward. He's throwing, he's backing you up. And I think Matt Semelsberger's forward pressure, he might walk right into one of those wild punches, those wild hooks, and one of those power strikes from Khaos Williams. So I have Khaos winning this fight. I have him
The
winning.
guy has 3 knockouts in under 30 seconds.
He's
Khaos
just
does
got
it.
power. And Matt Semelsberger has been knocked out before. And I hate when like pick'em shows just pull up the records of, well, this guy has been submitted 3 times. So that's all kind of meaningless because until it happens, it hasn't happened. Meaning there's plenty of people who have never been submitted and then get submitted. Plenty of people who have never been knocked out and then get knocked out. So, but with that being said, we know Matt can be knocked out. We know Khaos has the power to do it. And he definitely has the more experience. Khaos Williams, if you look at who they fought, has fought the higher, the higher quality of opponents. So I have Khaos Williams in this fight. And if we're talking about bets, I have a bet on Khaos Williams, or I'm going to place a bet on Khaos Williams. I want the wins by knockout. Right now, it is only plus 125. That's not enough for me, right? If I'm going to do a prop where this person's going to win by this incredibly specific way, I'm not doing it plus 125. So
Yeah,
I'm going
that's
to
a +2, +3.
Exactly.
For me, I go for the plus 1400s, the plus 1800s, the 2400s. That's my territory.
How has that worked out for you? So I'm waiting for that line to move. But while you're watching us, we are live. And if you're watching the replay, go to wewantpicks.com/bets, grab one of the options and place bets. Follow along, place the bets if you like the ones that we're doing. Hit the monkey knife fight lines while you're here.
Yeah, I would go more for sure on this one. Obviously, the thing to worry about is that early KO, but the way that seems like crazy low volume for Matthew. So I like the more here and just a battle. Like I said, I think it's gonna be the fight of the night.
Yeah, so at the monkey knife fight line is hard. So anybody watching, go to playmkf.com/wewantpicks. If you've never done monkey knife fight before, do it now. You literally triple your money. The only thing you have to do, you log in, you see what I'm sort of looking at right here where it says more or less 55.5 strikes for Khaos Williams, 36.5 for Matt Semelsberger. You just say, is Khaos going to throw more or less? Is Matt going to throw land more or less? So I think there's a knockout. So, man, it is a really low line. If anything, I don't know what I'm going to play there yet. It's a really low line. I'm going to wait before I decide what I'm going to do there. If this goes to a decision, if you think this fight goes to a decision, you play the more. It's that simple. I think Khaos Williams gets a knockout. I'm waiting to place that bet for the odds to get a little better. So I don't know what I'm going to do with monkey knife fight just yet. I may not play this. I may play the less because I do think there will be an early stoppage. But either way, this will be a really fun night. Jacob said this could be fight of the night, and it
will be fight of the night.
No, I don't know. There's actually a couple of really sick matchups on this card.
No.
And the last thing, I have Khaos Williams in my lineup at $8,900. I'm chasing that stoppage. That's the name of the DraftKings game. Do you have Semelsberger at 73?
I do not. No, I have a lot of underdogs, but he just didn't. Just like you said, I mean, it's dangerous with Khaos, right? So I saw value elsewhere.
Yeah. So and I'm seeing a comment here asking about what the Moreno sub paid out last week. I don't know, so I'm not going to answer that question, but it does trigger a thought because you asked specifically about the third round. I'm going to have to check the Khaos Williams. So I was just looking at by knockout because I'm more of a conservative bettor. I go by what I think is the most likely outcome, and then I place that bet. I usually don't get the crazy odds because I'm not looking at knockout in the first round, but I actually might do that because I think that knockout will happen in the first round if it happens. Another bet that you can place, and I've placed a few of these, and literally bet online, so go to wewantpicks.com/bets, is one of the only places that does these. They do the wins by stoppage and decision equals no bet. So basically what that says is if Khaos Williams gets the knockout, I get paid. If it goes to a decision and he either wins or loses, doesn't matter. If it goes to a decision, I get my money back and the bet is canceled. I did one on Chase Hooper last week and it was perfect. I said Chase Hooper either wins by submission or he loses a decision. So I placed my bet. He ended up losing a decision, but even if he won a decision, I get my money back. So anyway, that's another bet to look at. Check out the links and let's move on to our next fight.
Thank God.
Oh, Dan's not here. We have like 39 minutes per fight to kill.
What's the next fight? Okay.
Next up at UFC Vegas 29, we have Joaquim Silva versus Ricky Glenn. This is it's interesting because the odds makers have this even, but the DraftKings has it a pretty wide line. So Joaquim Silva is 3-2 in his last 5, and so is Ricky Glenn. So this is an interesting fight. The odds makers have it as a pick'em. It's
Except
two guys.
For the fact, when the last time Ricky Glenn fought, is that
both of them. That's what I was going to do in my intro here. It's an interesting matchup because both of these guys are coming off of multi-year layoffs. Neither one of these guys has fought recently. So that's always big question marks. The good news is both of them.
Well, I mean, Silva's like 1.5 years and Ricky Glenn's like 2.5 years.
I mean, either way, those are
a 1.5 years can happen. 2.5 is like you got to try not to fight with 2.5 year layoff. You got to actively not fight.
So Joaquim Silva's 2-year layoff. He's very explosive, and he's always looking for the knockout. He's similar to a Khaos.
And he's always looking good, honestly. Look at this guy.
What? All of a sudden, we're live and we just interrupt the hell out of each other?
Well, stop right there. Let me interrupt you because we got a donation from Antsy Music, $10.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Antsy. That's very appreciated. We have to ignore the chat. And what was that noise? This is a mess, Jacob. We still have to chop this video up and upload them individually to make this work. Either way. So we have Joaquim Silva versus Ricky Glenn, both of them coming off of a somewhat substantial layoff. We have 1.5 years versus 2+ years. Joaquim Silva is coming off a 2-year layoff. He's very explosive and always looking for the knockout. And he's always in the fight because of his power. It's always there. And if you look at his last fight, he was losing. And he was very clearly losing and was definitely minutes away from losing a decision. And bang, that knockout power was there. I love seeing that. It tells me 2 things. One, that power is always there. And that is fantastic. And 2, he mentally is always in the fight. He doesn't give up. He doesn't just throw those bombs, not get it, and then, okay, I'm done. I didn't get it. So anyway, I love seeing that. So that's a big plus for me for Joaquim Silva. And then we have Ricky Glenn, who hasn't fought in 3 years. He's been plagued with injuries.
2.5.
Okay, I round up. He's been plagued with injuries, but his fight style, he stands very tall and he marches forward, but he still stays out of the pocket. So he marches forward, but he keeps you away as he marches forward, meaning he doesn't get into the pocket and engage in elbows or sort of a close brawl. He just has a forward momentum style. And he can have trouble if you don't let him keep his range. So he likes the range. He moves forward. If Joaquim Silva meets him in the middle, also, what are you doing on the other screen?
Sure Dog's just like randomly playing. Sure Dog's just randomly playing music, like the little videos on the bottom.
You didn't do your research? You're doing it live?
I always just have the records up. That way I can just glance at it. I have my notes. Sure Dog.
Anyway, I think
what the hell's going on?
I think Joaquim Silva, Ricky Glenn likes to fight at distance. If Joaquim Silva closes that distance, doesn't give Ricky Glenn the rhythm, doesn't let Ricky Glenn keep him at the end of his punches, and just crowds him, come into the pocket, throws bombs, Joaquim Silva wins this fight, and Joaquim Silva is my pick. Jacob, I know you're just doing all of your research right now, so why don't you go ahead and break it down for us, what you've learned in the last 5.5 seconds.
Yeah, so I honestly think that this is going to be one of the worst fights of the night because I see both these guys as counter punchers. I see both of them as very patient. And like you said, Glenn will come forward, but he's waiting. When I watch Silva, I just see waiting. You mentioned Silva's, well, he didn't mention his last fight because against Nasrat was his last fight, and he got KO'd, which happened to be a southpaw, and Ricky Glenn also is southpaw. So there you go on that. I like Silva to win this fight. I think he's got the power. I worry about the cardio. All those big, strong muscles, they got to get some oxygen to those. So with cardio could be an issue. Ricky Glenn, when he finally comes in to throw, he throws with authority. So, he waits to throw. When he throws, he means business when he does throw. And the only thing that worries me about Silva is I see a little Cody Garbrandt in him to where he'll as he's waiting for someone, he'll kind of back up, back up, and then he pins himself against the fence, and then that's when he just starts throwing bombs. So, if it works, it works, but if it doesn't, Ricky Glenn will still knock you out as well. So I'm going with Silva, but I don't feel good enough about it to put him in my lineup. I wouldn't take the bet. And the monkey knife fight, I would go less. Maybe less more, but definitely less on Silva.
I would go, yeah. So I don't have either one of my DraftKings lineups as well. The layoff is the big question. I don't know. They might come back both looking amazing. One of them looking like I have no idea. That's a long time to not be in the game. With that being said, Joaquim has the power. The power doesn't go away. So he's my pick, but I'm not spending $8,300 on him in DraftKings. I'm not placing any actual money bets here because we have no idea what they're going to look like. They could come out gunslinging, get knocked out quick.
Well,
they could be out of shape. We don't know what they're going to look like.
I don't think Silva's going to be out of shape. I think I know what he's going to look like in there.
You need to relax. And I understand there's not a lot of females on this card for you to go through their Instagram, so you work your way backwards, but settle down.
Look at that mustache too, man. That's an incredible. You got to admit, that's an incredible mustache.
It's solid. It's very hipster. Very hip.
Great cheekbones, great shoulders.
Anyway, he's my pick. The monkey knife fight. This is another really tricky line. I would say definitely less on Joaquim, and I'd probably go less more on this because I have a feeling it will go the distance, and they may be feeling each other out. And honestly, less may be the play because it is a long layoff, and it takes some time to get into that rhythm.
And Ricky too will averages, I think, almost a takedown a fight. So he could use his grappling as well, tire out those big muscles. So
either way, let us know in the comments what you think about this matchup. Because again, this is another one of those really hard fights to pick. And that long layoff leaves a lot of questions. Next up at UFC Vegas 29, we have Aleksa Camur versus Nikolai Negumereanu, and that's about as good as that's gonna get. I'm honestly,
I'm going with Nick. Just so you know, I'm going with Nick.
This is honestly a trickier matchup than it appears. So Aleksa is the most expensive fighter on the card. Period. End of story.
Can I lead this one? Sorry, this is the one that.
Let me do the records and then I'll hand it over to you.
Okay.
Nick, as they like to say, as us friends call him, is 4-1 in his last 5, 9-1 overall. And Aleksa is 4-1 in his last 5, but 6-1 overall. So fewer fights in his career. The big time favorite, Jacob. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so this is the one where I think I texted you earlier in the week or earlier today or yesterday where I said there's a couple of these fights where I think the odds are honestly flip-flopped, where I have no idea why these odds are the way they are. Because you see Aleksa, and there's two different Aleksas that I saw when I watched him. There's the highlight film Aleksa where he's just like mauling people and throwing bombs and stuff, and then you watch him, versus in actual fights, like actual fight film, and it's like he's like kind of not timid, I wouldn't say, but you just don't see that aggression that you see in like some of his highlights. He did fight our boy William Knight, shout out to William Knight, and he was on his back like the entire fight. And then we watched William Knight kind of on the opposite end of that, where he got out wrestled and out grappled. So I watched Aleksa, and then I went over to Nick's film, and oh my God, that guy is like picking people up and throwing them across the octagon. He's suplexing people. I'm like, what the hell is going on with plus 205? This guy spent the entire last fight on his back. You have Nick just suplexing and powerbombing people to the ground. He has 0 decision wins, so he's finishing every single fight. He's submitting people. It's like, what is going on here? $6,900 plus 205. Lock of the week. Oh. That's the lock of the week. I mean, it doesn't get it. This is like the most confident lock of the week I think I know that I've ever had. It's crazy. This guy is just he's gonna pick him up, he's gonna slam him down, and then either submit him or TKO him. It's the lock of the week.
Man, so your lock of the week is the biggest underdog in the entire
card. Which is crazy. I honestly think that this should at least be a pick'em, and if not, Nick should be the favorite.
You did tell me that earlier in the week. You told both Dan and I. You didn't say who. You just said something.
I think there's one other fight, but this was the one that I was like, if you watch these guys, like, what the hell's going on here, man? I don't know if you saw it the same way.
Well, and very quickly, so let me do my piece real quick.
Sure.
I think this is the hardest fight on the card to pick because the odds are pretty crazy and neither one of these guys are very good. So they're both, decent regional fighters. It's odd to me that they're in the UFC at this level. Their records are very good, but if you dig into it, they're that's what got them into the UFC. Those aren't UFC records, if you will. But I'm going to go with Nikolai as well. I agree with you with that pick, but he hasn't fought in 2 years. So another big question mark.
I bet he's been in his backyard just suplexing logs for the last 2 years. I mean, some of his highlights are crazy. He literally is just like throwing people over his head.
Well, he's very durable. He has 100% finish rate, as you mentioned. He throws everything crazy and with bad intentions. He pressures forward, but he throws mostly looping shots and just stands in front of people. That is why the odds makers have him as the underdog. The willingness to stand in front of people. He doesn't move. There is no head movement. It's standing right there, like waiting to get hit in the mouth. And Aleksa, and my actual Amazon Alexa just keeps lighting up every time I say this dude's name, is very fast. Very fast. And
not on his back, he's not.
He has a good amount of experience, so fewer fights, but they just felt different. They felt like those fights were, they were longer. He learned more from them. It's over a longer period of time. He also he is the massive favorite, but he has solid straight punches. So as Nikolai is coming with the wild hooks, Camur will be right there, super fast, bang, right down the middle. That's what worries me. That's what the odds makers saw. With that being said, my pick is also Nikolai. I would never do minus 240 on a 6-1 dude who honestly is not.
And you would never go against lock of the week.
No, never. So anyway, solid lock of the week. Let's take a look. We discussed the DraftKings price. So I'm assuming you have Nikolai in your lineup.
Yeah, that's how that works. Yeah. Okay.
And at $6,900, he's not a terrible play, especially because, if there are some much more expensive fighters you want to squeeze in there, neither one of these guys are.
Well, that was the issue. And we'll get to that. I did pick this big underdog, but I hate like all the favorites. So it didn't really help me out.
Yeah. A lot of your lineups, and I'm assuming you guys in the chat, a lot of your lineups will probably have a couple $1,000 left over. Minus 240 Aleksa, plus 205 Nikolai. I'm not betting on this fight, or I'm sorry, I'm not going to. Oh, and then she actually picked me up this time. So I'm not going to put any money on Aleksa at all. I may dig into some Nikolai prop bets and just see what that looks like. Plus 205 money line. That's actually pretty solid. So I might do that as well. And then the monkey knife fight lines, I am going less more. 73 is very high. 36 is very low. I'm really confident in the less more on this line. I don't think there's a stoppage in this fight. What are your thoughts on that monkey knife fight line?
I would go less more. I honestly think that Aleksa's going to spend the whole fight on his back, just like William Knight did to him. So, and I think Nick, if he doesn't finish early, it's just going to be a lot of ground and pound, and those add up very, very quickly, as we've learned. So,
yep. And we have a question in the chat asking about the cardio. Here's the thing. We don't know about the cardio. Like, Nikolai has been off for 2 full years. We don't know what that cardio is going to look like on his way back. We just have to assume he's in good shape.
He's in great shape.
He did not have cardio issues in his previous fights, so we just have to assume that he will, be in shape and ready to go. So go to playmkf.com/WeWantPicks. Everybody on this live stream who has never done that before, they don't know what monkey knife fights is. It is the easiest way, and I'll repeat that, the easiest way to make money in MMA. You literally look at the strike line that's in front of you and you say, will that fighter land more or less than that number? And you triple your money with every play. You play $10, you win 30. You play 20, you win 60. If you use promo code WWP on your deposit, they will instantly match it. Use the free money that they give you, the instant match money, play the lines, then you can withdraw your real money if you want. I don't care. Either way, we're both very confident in less strikes from Aleksa Camur and more strikes from Nikolai Negumereanu. And I nailed it that time.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up at UFC Vegas 29, we have my girl, Casey O'Neill versus Lara Procópio. We have broken down.
Whoa. Why is she? Wait, we're not going to skip over that. Why is she your girl?
Because we've broken down both of them before and we picked her and she hammered it. So anybody who wins me money in the past is officially my person. So anyway, we have Lara Procópio 4-1 in her last 5. She is a favorite here versus Casey O'Neill, who is 5-0 in her last 5, 6-0 in her entire career. But I will say she won her last fight, but there were holes in that game when we watched that fight. So Lara Procópio, very solid. She has like pretty good boxing, a solid clinch work. She moves forward, and the big advantage here is her grappling. So Casey O'Neill has some takedowns, but they're not very good. And then she doesn't really know what to do after the takedowns, where Lara Procópio is dangerous everywhere from her grappling. And her grappling is super aggressive. She's looking for finishes in the grappling department. And as far as her grappling is concerned, she has a very high fight IQ, meaning, you know, if we go back in time and look at UFC 263, when in the main event, what's his name? Vettori had Adesanya's back, went for the rear naked choke before his legs were set, and then lost the entire position. That is just, he got too excited, messed up. Lara Procópio has incredibly high fight IQ as far as the grappling is concerned. Those are not the mistakes she makes. She will get her position, lock in the position, and then work for the submission. Just very technical, classic, do all the right things in the grappling. Casey O'Neill, a Muay Thai striker with solid elbows and is very willing to brawl and get into firefights. She does have solid wrestling and is pretty explosive. We've seen her wrestling work really well, but it works well because she's so explosive. I would not say they're technical takedowns. I would just say she's athletic and explosive, and bang, there's your takedown. But once she gets the takedown, she doesn't have the jiu-jitsu. She's very athletic, so she works her way through situations where she's needed, or where it's needed, but she's not technical enough to work through things and make things happen. My pick here is Lara Procópio, if you couldn't tell from that breakdown. And I would compare Casey O'Neill to a Paige Van Zandt. Good striking, very athletic, but that athleticism is going to catch up to her. And I think Lara Procópio, the more seasoned fighter with the higher fight IQ and the more technical jiu-jitsu background, is going to go ahead and get this done. Jacob, open your eyes and tell us your pick.
I agree with like the Paige Van Zandt's thing as far as like a toughness thing, because you saw that against Shayna Dobson. Shayna Dobson was throwing everything and she was just walking through everything and getting those takedowns. But with the grappling, she's a much better grappler than, or a wrestler, I guess, than Paige. But I have Casey to win this fight.
Oof.
I don't have her in my lineup, and I don't love it because I think that this is going to be a wrestling match. And he mentioned, I have it in my notes as well, that Casey can grapple, but she's a little sloppy the way she does it. You saw Shayna kind of reverse those positions a couple times. I just like her pressure more than Procópio's. You mentioned that she goes for finishes. I see just a little bit more aggression and toughness out of Casey. I think she finds a way to, even if this is like a long, weird decision, I think that she finds a way to get this done. I don't think either one of them really finishes each other unless somebody somehow gets submitted. Maybe Casey gets submitted. I'm worried about Casey fighting off her back because you really haven't seen that. You've seen kind of scrambles and stuff, but her stuck on her back, I don't know if she can get up. That's the only thing that worries me, but I wouldn't touch this probably either way for DraftKings. But, I think Casey finds a way to win the fight.
I'm checking my lineup very quickly. Yeah, I have Lara Procópio in my lineup. I have much in the fight because I think she's live for a stoppage. Not only do I think she's going to win the fight, I think she can win by stoppage. And again, it's because of the jiu-jitsu. Striking wise, Casey has the advantage. Wrestling wise, Casey probably has the advantage. I'm totally cool with that because let her take Procópio down so Procópio can create a scramble, make something happen, control the jiu-jitsu, because Casey is lacking jiu-jitsu. Either way, this is an interesting fight. It's an interesting matchup. If I'm talking about the strike line, I'm going less across the board. I think 132 is very high. It's not going to be that high with Lara Procópio. It just isn't. And 84.5, she might get more than that if she's controlling the wrestling, but I think she'll be on her back. I think she's going to get a sweep or a submission from her back, not get offensive wrestling and pepper from top. So I'm going less on the monkey knife fight line. And as far as bets are concerned, this is another one of those bets. The bet I placed here. So Procópio is a favorite. I don't do money lines on favorites unless I'm like 1000% sure and it's under -200. But the bet I did place, and you're only going to get these bets at Bet Online. So go to wewantpicks.com/bets, click one of the links and sign up. I did the Procópio wins by stoppage, decision equals no action. I mentioned this earlier, and all that means is if Lara Procópio wins by submission, I win my bet. If Lara Procópio ends up in a decision, win or lose, I get my money back, and it's like the bet never happened. So I'm going that route. Lara Procópio is very tough. Even if Casey O'Neill wins, I don't think she'll get a finish. So the bet, my actual money bet, is the wins by stoppage, decision equals no action. Did you tell me what you thought about this strike line?
No, because you've just been talking for like
I've just been. I'm
20 minutes.
filling the Dan shoes, just blah blah blah, on and on and on.
The only thing that worries me, obviously, that 132.5 is a very, very high number. The only thing that worries me is Lara with her takedowns. Casey could be good enough to stuff takedowns, and then you get that position where it's just pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, pitter patter, as somebody's just hanging on your leg trying to get takedowns, or even if she's off her back, if Lara's not quite getting the control she wants and not doing anything, it's pitter patter, pitter patter, and those add up. We've seen that add up just crazy fast. 132 is still a lot, so I still would probably play the odds with less, but that's the only thing that would worry me about that number.
Yeah, it's anything can happen. That's why that's why you triple your money if you win, because anything can happen. But the good news is you triple your money when you win. So the strategy here is you play as many as possible so that you can just spread it out. You win some, you lose some, you still end up money at the end of the day.
Next up
at UFC Vegas 29, we have Julian Erosa versus Seung Choi. These are two guys that we have already broken them down in the past, but not against each other. Both of them are 3-2 in their last 5. Julian Erosa on a 3-fight win streak, Seung Choi on a 2-fight win streak, and this should be a very good fight. Julian has so much more experience. It's crazy. He almost has more losses than Seung has wins, and that's not an insult to his record. That's just saying how fantastic his career has been. He's had that many fights. He's done that well. Julian Erosa is violent. He's very violent. He throws everything. He has bad intentions, a ton of finishes. He's super aggressive. He pushes the action, and everything he throws is dangerous. He's looking for finishes at all times. The problem is he does rely on his chin quite a bit, and it holds up for the most part, but that is just not something you want to do, especially when you fight somebody like Seung Choi, who is the more technical striker for sure. He sets his shots up. He absolutely can win by KO, but if I'm breaking this down and I'm looking at them, I think Julian Erosa has more ways to win this fight because he can win by knockout. He can win by submission. Seung Choi can just win by knockout. That's sort of my analysis. I didn't make a pick yet, and you're already rolling your eyes. Why don't you go ahead and tell me your thoughts? I'm going to make the screen like this so that you're even smaller when people listen to the hot air.
Seung Choi is going to win, and he's in my lineup. You mentioned Julian Erosa. He is very tough. He's got great submissions, but he wants a dirty fight. He wants to make it dirty. He wants to get in. He wants to get in that striking range, throw some elbows, maybe try and get some takedowns. And with Seung Choi is so fast with his in and out striking, and he's so precise with that striking. I just don't know if Erosa can get to him. And if he can get to him, can he get the takedowns? Because I think Erosa would rather probably be on the ground in this fight because he's got all those submission wins. Gavin Tucker was able to take Choi down. Zalal was able to take him down, but Choi is still a good scrambler in those positions. So even if Erosa gets him down, he can scramble out of those positions. I think he's going to stuff the takedowns because I don't think Erosa has the takedowns that Gavin Tucker or Zalal have. So I think Choi is able to stuff the takedowns, keep the distance when he wants to. Late, I see Julian Erosa, wearing down, getting tired, and maybe Choi catch some late. But this is the biggest thing that we need to understand. Okay, going into this fight, this is no nonsense here. This is all you need to know, and this has worked. I mentioned this stuff in the past, and it works every single time. Julian Erosa, his last nine fights, he went win, 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 loss, 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 win, 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 and now he's fighting Choi. So you do the math. I mean, that's the easiest pick you can make. You can't argue against patterns. I mean, that's the way it is. It's like
absolutely 100% can. That's nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Why do I? This is a genuine question. I should know the answer. Was Julian Erosa a lock of the week in the past, or did he fight a lock of the week?
No, he embarrassed me on the Nate Laneware pick. So I picked Nate and was like, "Oh, Nate's so tough," and then Nate came over and just got absolutely knocked out.
Because I was like, "This is like I don't know why this name. It's like his name with you." There was an association in my head, and I couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah, not lock of the week. Lock of the week doesn't lose, so there's nobody that can beat lock of the week. Come on.
You picked against him, and he made you look foolish, and today you're picking against him. So Julian Erosa is my pick. Let me check my DraftKings lineup. Is he in it? Let's see. A ding, a ding, a dong, a doom. No, he isn't. Not a price. He is plus money. I do have a bet that I placed on this fight. My bet is goes the distance, and I have a half unit on that at plus 105. What is funny, goes the distance is plus 105. Under 2.5 rounds is plus 125. So I threw a half in a unit at under 2.5 rounds. That's just always so weird to me when the odds are like that. So I'm getting better odds for less time. That makes no sense. I should get, if I'm, you know what I mean? If I'm playing more than, it should be different. Either way, I am doing goes. Sorry, I'm looking at it here. I am doing.
We love being live. We love being live.
I'm doing under 2.5 rounds at plus 125. Does not go the distance is plus 105. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. So if you get the extra 2.5 minutes in the fight, you lose a good amount of 20%, basically. So I am going, or I already bet a half a unit at plus 125 for under 2.5 rounds. I do think there's a stoppage. Do you agree there's a stoppage?
No, I don't think there's maybe, but I think Choi just outpoints him. I think he's just in and out. I don't think Erosa can ever get to him. And maybe he gets like a late, after that 2.5 rounds, gets that knockout. But no.
So if you think this is a decision, are you going to play the more on the monkey knife fight line?
I think the safe play here is more for sure.
Yeah.
How's that ice?
It's solid. Seungwoo's line is high. 93.5 is a high strike line. Especially because Julian is probably the aggressor here. So I'm thinking Choi's probably backing up quite a bit. I would do more or less or more. I'm going to wait. That's one where I'll wait to see if the line moves later in the week. And once it moves, that's when I'll go ahead and play in monkey knife fight. Let us know in the comments what you think about that line and who you think wins this fight.
Let us know.
Next up at UFC Vegas 29, we have Josh Parisian versus Roque Martinez. Josh Parisian fought my buddy, Parker Porter. I called Parker, so I managed Parker in the past. I'm good friends with Parker. We're both from Connecticut. Great dude. We spent a lot of time together. Parker beat Josh Parisian in Josh's UFC debut. Beat him very handily, honestly. I called Parker today. We had a nice chat about everything, but I said, hey, do me a favor, break down this fight for me so that I have something that I can show them. You fought Josh Parisian. You may end up fighting. Actually, he's fighting Chase Sherman. That's booked. He told me today. I didn't even see the announcement, but he's fighting Chase Sherman. He originally had that fight. Then he got COVID. That fight was off. It's back on. Either way, I have reached out to Parker. We talked today. He's sending in his breakdown of this fight, and I'll upload that as soon as I get that. As far as my breakdown is concerned, Josh Parisian is 13-4. He is 4-1 in his last 5. That one loss coming to my friend Parker Porter. And then we have Roque Martinez is 3-2 in his last 5. Josh Parisian is looking for his first UFC win. He has lots of output. He throws a ton of crazy stuff. For a heavyweight, he spins. He does unreasonable things at times. He gasses super early, and he definitely did against Parker. I imagine he's taking this fight more seriously. Somebody just commented, check his Instagram. I did check his Instagram, and he is taking this more seriously. He will be in better shape, and we can expect him to be. Roque Martinez is very short for this division, and the problem is he can't get to people.
He's very short, but as like he's tall. It's like if you're like for normal people, he's very tall. But
Jacob,
for
it's
the
okay,
heavyweight
Jacob.
division,
I'm not calling you short. It's all right. They know you're not.
Nobody's short here. I'm just saying.
No.
You said he's short for the division. He is short, but as an average person, he's very tall. Very tall.
Jacob, it's all right. It's okay. Like people understand that you'll never be as tall as big as me. You'll never be as tall as big as Dan. And as far as like averages are concerned, you're probably Jesse in the comments just said less. He's probably talking about monkey knife fights, but that also applies to your height. Yes, you'll never be as tall as us, and that's fine.
I'm handsome tall. You guys are like giant tall. Like people are like there's that line in the movie where like
you're better looking than Dan.
When you walk through the airport, people stop and stare. Okay, and I just breeze right through.
You're handsome tall. You're better looking than Dan and
right.
Nick, who is a Tommy Hilfiger model. Yep.
Right. Hey. No, make it big again.
Anyway, Roque Martinez, he is shorter for the division, and that is a problem for him, especially because Josh is very tall. I'm not a big like, let me pull up Tapology and there's a 6-inch reach advantage. So, there's my pick. That is not what I'm doing here. He has struggled in the past with closing the distance and finding people's heads. So the good news is for his stature, he's got that Samoan head. He is like impossible to finish. He's incredibly durable, but he does have issues with his range. And I think Josh Parisian probably picks him apart at range. I imagine he'll be in better shape for this fight than he was for the Parker fight. I imagine he will use his range and his high volume output. I also do not think this will be a finish. I think Josh Parisian lights up Roque, but I don't think he finishes him. So I have Josh Parisian as my pick. We'll see how Parker Porter breaks it down. He shared the cage with Josh Parisian. I do not have him in my lineup at $8,700. That's a lot of money. I do like the more in the strike line, and 92.5 is a lot for a heavyweight, but he has high volume, and I think Roque is just on the wrong end of a lot of that volume. So, Jacob, what are your thoughts?
I'll tell you what. You mentioned the kicking from Josh. You know who Josh reminds me of? Did you ever, I'm sure you did, but when you're growing up, there's always that kid like that just starts going karate, and then you see him in the hallway and he's just doing wild karate stuff all the time. Those kids terrified me. There's always that one kid in school that just learned karate.
What did you go to?
That just learned karate and he just tries to kick everyone at every opportunity. That's what Josh looked like in that Contender Series fight with his wild spitting stuff. And it's like he just learned all these kicks and he wanted to show them off. So that's what that reminded me of. You mentioned the height, disadvantage for Martinez. I think that is a factor. I did not know this, but in one of his was a Ryzen, is that the
Ryzen? Yeah,
Ryzen, whatever it is.
Yeah.
He was wearing shoes in the fight and kicking the guy with. I've never seen that.
You texted me about.
Yeah, he literally
wearing shoes in his fight.
Dude, he literally had wrestling shoes on, but he's throwing shin kicks and body kicks with shoes on. What the hell's going on here? But I think Josh wins the fight. I think this is a sloppy mess of a fight. The only thing I would be worried about would be Martinez with his. I've seen him get takedowns before, and with the height advantage, maybe he comes in with a grappling grappling game plan. So that's the only thing that would worry me for picking Josh. But I think that Josh should win with that wild karate stuff.
I agree. I mean, that's some solid insight with the height. As far as grappling is,
and I know that he can wrestle because he owned wrestling shoes. He was wearing them in the octagon,
yeah.
Ring, whatever. So,
you sure they weren't boxing shoes?
They look like wrestling shoes to me. I don't know. I mean, because boxing are really high.
Higher.
Yeah. So,
but I didn't pin him as a hardcore grappler, but the height disadvantage works really well for grappling, obviously, because he doesn't have the lowest level to get to those hips. He's just at the hip. So either way, that's my breakdown of the fight. I have a bet on this one as well. I bet over on rounds, which was the over on rounds was minus 170. So I bet goes to a decision, which is plus 145. This is another really weird one because the over on rounds, the round line was 2.5 rounds. So they're saying if it goes more than 2.5 rounds, the odds are minus 170. But if it goes to a decision, I get plus 145. That is literally a 2.5-minute window. I'll risk that window and do the plus 145. So I have this fight going to a decision. I put a unit on goes to a decision. It is sloppy. I think Josh wins, but Roque's head is like a cement house. So I don't think he's going anywhere. Either way, that's our breakdown. People in the comments are saying less on the total strike line.
And David Ramona also said that kid was probably Jacob growing up with the karate. I was not the karate kid, okay? And let me just say, too, the karate kid was usually the kid that smells like pee. There was always a kid growing up that always smelled like pee. And there's a lot of crossover.
Where you grew up, but it sounds gross.
There's a lot of crossover between the wild karate kid and the kid that smells like pee. That's all I'll say.
I honestly, like, Indiana just sounds terrible from everything I hear from you about Indiana.
It's great. I'm an indie animal.
Yeah. Either way, that's our breakdown. Let us know in the comments what you think. The strike line is interesting. I think more is the play because I think it is a decision. And I think Josh Parisian, who has high volume, just continues with that high volume. And Roque Martinez, who has a cement brick for a head, just absorbs and throws. So I do think more is the play. And I have the bet on the goes to a decision. Next up at UFC Vegas 29, we have Kanako Murata versus Virna Jandiroba. We have takedown artist. People call her a wrestler, but it's really judo. So we have takedowns versus grappling. And these matchups interest the hell out of me. I'm a wrestler, like to my core. And then immediately after wrestling, I started doing jiu-jitsu. So I love grappling, all aspects of grappling.
Same.
Yep. And Jacob, you can tell by his ears, his stature, just the confidence that he exudes. He's obviously done combat sports at some level. We have Virna is 3-2 in her last 5. She is coming off a loss to Mackenzie Dern, but it was a decision loss, and she engaged with Mackenzie Dern. She pulled guard. She was like, let's go. I am not afraid of your jiu-jitsu. Let's go. And she didn't get submitted. And then we have Kanako Murata, 5-0 in her last 5. You have her as 16-2. I see her with only 1 loss, but records get tricky when you have amateur fights and exhibition matches and things like that. But we do have takedowns versus submissions here. Virna is fantastic on the ground. Fantastic on the ground. She is live for a submission at all times. The big question is, can she submit Murata? She does hit very hard. She's not very technical. So she hits hard, is solid on the ground, doesn't really have offensive wrestling. And then we have Kanako Murata, who has very good takedowns. Whether you want to call it jiu-jitsu, judo. She has a judo black belt. People keep saying wrestling, judo, whatever you want to call it. She has great takedowns and a very solid base and control. She has good BJJ defense, and she smoked Ronda Marcos. And people are dogging the fact that she smoked Ronda Marcos. So yes, Ronda Marcos does not have the greatest record, but Ronda Marcos has fought every female on the planet in that division at all levels. So a win over Ronda Marcos is meaningful, and Kanako did it and made it look easy. It's very possible that Kanako takes Virna down, holds her down, avoids the submissions. With that judo background, judo has submissions as well. Everybody thinks it's just throws. It's throws and then arm bars, throws and then chokes. So with that defense, with the offensive judo, I think she takes Virna down. I think she controls Virna and avoids the big submissions. But this could be, before I pass it to you, Jacob, one of those 2 grapplers that stand there and have the worst striking fight of all time. That could be the case, but I don't think Kanako is afraid to engage. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Kanako was also a junior world wrestling champion. So you said she's just like all judo, but she does have the wrestling.
No, I'm not saying she just has the judo black belt, and the judo, as far as the ground game is concerned, is meaningful because judo has submissions.
And if you look at her 1 loss, she got taken down and submitted like she didn't know what the hell was going on. She got taken down, and when she got her back taken, it was like She didn't even like fight hand. It was very weird. The lock was in and she like was just kind of sitting there like, what do I do now? And that's not going to be very good, as you mentioned, against Virna, because she will submit you.
That was like 5 years ago.
Okay. It happened. Did it not happen?
All right, let's go through all the things you've done in the last.
Yeah, people don't forget. But yeah, the thing I saw with Virna too is you mentioned against her the Mackenzie Dern fight. She was outstruck by Mackenzie Dern, which is not good, but I think she probably has the striking advantage in this fight. I don't know. It's such a toss up. But she did defend 5 takedowns from Mackenzie, and Mackenzie's not very good at takedowns. The thing that worries me is that Virna might be willing to get taken down in this fight. She might want to go there and get completely controlled. I think she wanted to stay off the ground against Mackenzie. She went to the ground. I think she pulled guard that one time, but against Mackenzie Dern, it's kind of life or death. Against, Kanako, it's not really life or death. So maybe she does go there. Maybe she finds a submission. I actually, in my notes, I didn't even pick this fight because I have no idea what's going to happen in this fight. It's going to be, it's such a weird matchup. Like you said, the wrestler versus the grappler. So I didn't pick in this fight. I guess I would pick Virna with her jiu-jitsu if it's going to get on the ground to win, but I stayed away from this one completely.
So I do have a bet on this fight. My pick is Kanako, but I have a bet on this fight, and I've mentioned this a few times. I love the reason we partnered. So we want picks. There's 4 of us. There's only 2 of us tonight, but there's 4 of us total. The reason we did a deal with Bet Online is because we use Bet Online, and we use them because they have prop bets that nobody else has, and they have them early. 2 prop bets that they have that nobody else has is the +3.5 or +5.5. Basically, you can buy points. So if a fight goes to a decision, you bought some points. Your fighter can lose the decision, but you can still win your bet. The other one is the wins by stoppage, decision, no action. I've mentioned that twice already in this breakdown. I went with that bet. I put a full unit on submission by Virna, but a decision is no action. And again, if you didn't see this earlier, what that means is if Virna wins by submission, I win my bet. I get paid out. If this fight ends up in a decision, I get my money back. I get a refund. The bet never happened. Here's your money. Thanks for trying. The only way I lose my bet is if Virna gets stopped. That's the only way I lose my bet. And I don't see that happening. Kanaka, I don't think she's ever stopped anybody. And if she has, she's not going to stop Virna. So I see Kanaka taking Virna down, riding out a decision. And the good news is, if she doesn't ride out a decision and she gets submitted, I get paid by Virna. If she does,
Kanaka had 6 finishes.
Okay. If she does ride out a decision, then it's fine. I get my money back. The bet never happened. So that's why I love Bet Online. That's why I love that bet. I just did it with Chase Hooper last weekend. Go to wewantpicks.com/bets. Place it.
Chase Hooper won that fight.
It doesn't matter. For my bet, it doesn't
matter. It's a joke. He got dominated. Come on.
Yeah, but sometimes you're a little iffy with your picks there. So anyway, that's my bet. Let's look at the strike line. I think more is the play. And I know Virna will probably spend most of the time on her back, but I think she'll be swinging wild on her feet. And I think those will add up. If you don't believe that, then go more on Kanaka, less on Virna, because she'll be on her back the whole time. What do you think about that monkey knife fight line?
Less.
All right, let's cross the board. I think it goes to a decision. So 52 strikes, 61 strikes in a 15-minute fight is a low number, but you're going less. If you guys want to play that line, go to playmkf.com/wewantpicks. Everything I'm rambling on about is in the description below. Go there, click some links. Next up at UFC Vegas 29, we have Marlon Chito Vera versus Davey Grant. This is a rematch from 5 years ago, and Grant absolutely dominated that fight, but he's a big underdog this time around. So Chito Vera, Marlon Vera, whatever you want to call him, is 3-2 in his last 5, coming off of a loss. Davey Grant is also 3-2 in his last 5, but riding a 3-fight win streak with 2 KOs and a nice decision. So it's interesting that Davey Grant is the underdog because he dominated the first fight, dominated it, He's the one who's streaking right now. And I was wrong, Jacob. In text message, I was like, but he's getting older. Chito Vera's older than Davey Grant. People keep talking about how Davey Grant is. Chito is older. So I don't know why Davey Grant's age is an issue, but Chito's isn't. Either way, Marlon Vera or Chito Vera, whatever you call him, has lots of power. He's a legit submission threat, and he has a very, very solid jaw. He has a ton of stoppage power, and the finishes on his record show that. This is either Vera by KO or Grant by decision. I really don't see any other way. Davey Grant is the much more technical striker. When he gets on top, he does have some solid control. I think he can avoid some submissions, but he has been dropped in his last couple of fights, even in the wins. He gets dropped. He gathers himself, puts it back together, and then pulls out the win. And in the last two cases, pulled out the knockout. Jacob, I'll let you go before I give my pick here. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, Cheeto's 28 years old, so I don't know what you're talking about.
I thought he was 38. All right, I'm a moron. Go ahead.
Jesus. And I don't want to go into like a complete rant here because I know that I like Sean O'Malley.
For some reason, my head said 38. I'm like, 38? What the hell? All right, so we have 28 versus 35. Go ahead.
Yeah, anyway. I don't want to go into be like a complete Sean O'Malley apologist here. But Marlon Vera lost his last 3 fights. He was going to lose that fight to Sean O'Malley if Sean O'Malley doesn't, get that weird nerve thing with his foot. He was getting pieced up. So this should be a 3-fight winning streak in Davey Grant, who just destroyed Jonathan Martin, who me and Dan as well thought that Jonathan Martin was just going to absolutely destroy Davey Grant because Jonathan Martin is just an unbelievable striker, and Davey Grant just didn't even care. Came forward, ended up knocking him out. Marlon Vera is definitely not the striker that Jonathan Martinez is. And Marlon Vera, I just don't think is that good, honestly. And these odds are – this is the other one where I'm like, how in the hell is Davey Grant an underdog when he won the last fight? He's on a 3-fight winning streak. He just beat Jonathan Martinez, who was knocking out everyone. I have Davey Grant winning this fight. It's not – I already had my lock of the week for $6,900, so it didn't make sense to put him in my lineup at 71. But, if you're looking for value, $7,100 for Davey Grant, I think that's great value. And I would play this at less more, I think, from a multi-night fight.
So I have 2 bets on this fight. And Jacob, you see the message sending in, Angelo won't stop about the bets. Well, guess what? We're not doing a betting breakdown tonight, so I'm doing it in this. Sorry, viewers, for giving you even more information. Apparently, Jacob has a problem with that, and he's tattletaling to Dan. But guess what? This isn't Dan's show. It's my show. So with that being said, and you can tell him I said that too. You can tell him I said that too.
Well, I guess I'll just sign off though, and you can just keep on going. We'll see you later, guys. This is the Angelo show.
2 bets on this fight. I have, and I'm going to go back to the well with that KO decision, no action. So I have Chito Vera, Marlon Vera, with a KO decision, no action, meaning if he wins by knockout, I get paid. If it goes to a decision, win or lose, I get my money back. I get a refund. That bet never happened. And then I have a straight up money line bet on Davey Grant at plus 189. I could look at the odds for a decision because I said it earlier. I think it's either Davey Grant by decision or Marlon Vera gets the knockout. I don't see anything in between. I don't see Marlon Vera winning a decision. I don't see Davey Grant getting a stoppage here. So that's how I see it. And I bet both sides of it. That is why the KO decision is no action bet is perfect because I literally bet both sides of this. And if it does go to decision and Davey Grant wins, it's okay. It's fine. That Marlon
in 13 wins, he only has 2 decisions. Why would you think that it's like a foregone conclusion that Davey Grant?
Because Chito Vera has a head like a brick. I just don't see him stopping Chito Vera. That's why. I think he'll use his wrestling and his grappling.
His wrestling.
Wrestling.
His wrestling. Gotta use his Arkansas wrestling. Gotta use that Arkansas wrestling, Davey Grant. He kind of looks like Arkansas wrestling.
If we look at the strike line, I'm going less more. I agree with you, Jacob. I think less on Marlon Vera is very solid. More on Davey Grant is incredibly solid. So I'm playing less more on Monkey Knife Fight. And to do that, go to playmkf.com/WeWantPicks. If you use promo code WWP, they will instantly match your deposit. Use the free money on the deposit. Play a few lines. Withdraw your real money. You triple it with a win. Next up at UFC Vegas 29, we have Wellington Turman versus Bruno Silva.
And before we get into it, because I think you're about to say it anyway, but I have an honest question, honest to God question. This was the other fight. Do the odds makers think that this is the other Bruno Silva?
Because he's minus 145.
I go ahead with your thing, but that was like an honest question. I'm like, do they think that this is the Bruno Silva? Dan's boy, Bruno Silva? Because this is Silva. I said Silva.
You said Silver.
I think you gotta get new speakers, man.
I think people in the comments will point out that you said Silver.
I think that they're always on my side because that's why.
Please continue.
No, I was going to let you go. I just that was an honest question. Maybe they think he's the actual.
Well, let me do my breakdown here. What I find interesting is this graphic. He looks like the video. Yep. Somebody immediately commented. You said Silver. Thank you, Will, for that.
All right. Well, let's see. Will's getting timed out here real quick.
So anyway, the funny part about Bruno Silva is, yes, he's not that Bruno Silva. These are entirely different weight classes. But his picture looks like the video game picture in like the UFC video game. Like it looks like a.
Well, he didn't have a picture, so I drew that.
That's what it honestly looks like.
That's what I spent my afternoon doing.
So anyway, Wellington Turman is 3-2 in his last 5. He's coming off of a loss. Bruno Silva is 4-1 in his last 5 with a 4-fight win streak. Wellington is a BJJ black belt, and there is a giant gap between these two on the ground. But Wellington is a very, very sloppy striker. His striking is literally just to set up the grappling. It's nothing special at all. Bruno Silva hasn't fought in a few years, so there's a lot of question marks there. He has a lot of power in his strikes. All of his wins are by knockout, and I think his losses are by submission. So that's a little
5 of 6.
Yep, that's a little sketchy. And the layoff was because of performance-enhancing drugs. So he literally got his UFC debut, popped, like he didn't get to fight his UFC debut. This is it now. He popped, had to take a few years off, and then now he gets to fight. But he's a very good striker. He has very solid clinch work. The odds makers are very heavy on him, and it's because of his power, because of the knockouts that he has on his record. I mean, he's knocked every single person out. So 19 knockouts is a ton of knockouts, and that's what they're seeing here. So, Jacob, what are your thoughts? And then I'll give you my pick.
Yeah, I got a few things here. First of all, Wellington is like the greatest name in the world. That's an incredible name.
I watch Hell's Kitchen, so Wellington is meat wrapped in puff pastry from Gordon Ramsay. That's what you make the connection. Wellington, baby.
I think of like a Connecticut kid in pink shorts and a
I'm from Connecticut. Don't tell me.
Going boating, heading out to Martha's Vineyard. We're going to Martha's for the weekend.
Now doing Massachusetts. But go ahead.
They're all the same up there. It's all the same accent. But and Bruno, I mean, we mentioned, I think the odds are crazy. He's had that 2.5-year layoff. This is a UFC debut, and he's a Brazilian that's never submitted anyone. I've never heard of that in my life. Usually the Brazilians they're all black belts. I think they're just born with black belts. They just always submit everyone. So that's the only thing that would worry me in this fight is if he was a good jiu-jitsu. Maybe he hasn't. Maybe he just knocks everyone out, and I'm sure he can do jiu-jitsu. It's not like he probably can't, but that's the only thing that would worry me in this fight because I think he's going to get takedown. Wellington has incredible body lock, trip, takedowns. I think that Bruno ends up on his back. He does throw some wild stuff, and if it connects, it's not going to be good for Wellington at all. But these odds are crazy to me. I think Wellington wins. I think he gets it to the ground. And the one thing that he's very good at is, say Bruno has the grappling in his back pocket that he's never really shown. The second that you try to stand up in like a takedown situation, Wellington will jump on your neck in a second. So that's the only thing that worries me is Bruno maybe he's starting to climb to his feet, a little sloppy. You're going to get your net taken and you're going to get submitted. So I like Wellington in this fight. As we mentioned, Bruno, his 5 of his 6 losses are to submission. So unless Bruno can catch him early, I think he's on his back the entire fight and probably get submitted himself.
Yeah, so I actually have Bruno Silva in this fight, but I'm not confident enough to bet on him straight up. I do think Bruno wins. That is just such incredible power. And Wellington Turman's stand-up is just trash. It's not good. It's just to set up the grappling, and even that isn't great. It's not like a Damian Maia who can he can make some things happen and then shoot. It's not his stand up's not good.
Yeah, and the stand up too is it's not like a jab into a takedown. It's like you mentioned, he's throwing bombs when he's throwing bombs, it's still bombs. So he might get caught in a war, and if he gets caught in a war, then yeah, I agree that Bruno would be the play.
Yeah, but again, I agree with you. I mean, I think Wellington. He's
no, I agree with you. I think that you're doing a great breakdown. I think.
I bet both sides. I pulled a Dan Kramer and I bet both sides of this. I went Turman by sub at plus 500, and I did a quarter of a unit on that. I was going to do the sub or bust that I've been talking about this whole card, but those odds were crazy. So the submission, win by submission, decision, no action, those odds were nuts and not worth it. But so I just did by sub at a quarter of a unit, and then I did under 2.5 rounds. So if Wellington Turman wins by submission in under 2.5 rounds, I win both of my bets. If Bruno Silva gets an early knockout, I only win that one, and I missed the Wellington on submission, but it doesn't matter because it'll still pay for itself. So I do have a couple of bets on this one. This is a weird card where there's not a ton that I know it sounds like I'm betting all over the place. There's not a ton that I'm super confident on with the bets. But this one I like because any of these fights where I think it goes one way or the other, those are the ones where I really try to make something happen. To DraftKings, do you have either one of these fellas in your lineup?
No.
Okay. Yeah, no, me neither. So I don't have either one of these guys in my lineup. Wellington is submission or bust, and Bruno Silva, $8,800. Honestly, is not a bad. I'm wake up Sunday morning and like, yeah, $8,800 was not a bad price for that knockout. But Jacob's point, he could get submitted as well. I love that strike line. I'm going more and more, and I am very, very confident in that strike line. That's me pausing so that you can say your thoughts.
I mean, that was the tone of like we're moving on, like in the strike line. And next up, yeah, I don't know about the strike line.
What are your thoughts on the strike line?
Hell, I don't know. I honestly don't. I mean, that's a tough one to pick because it could be an early stop. I mean, it could be an early stoppage. It could be an early submission, but it could drag him out. So I would stay away from this one completely in my mind.
I mean, obviously anything's possible in a fight. And, that's why Monkey Knife Fight pays you 3 to your 1. So, you play multiple lines. I'm going to play this line and I'm going to do the more and more. I do think there's a stoppage in either direction, which is why I bet the under on rounds. But 57 is not a lot for Bruno Silva, who throws like a wild man. And Wellington Turman throws like an animal just to get close. So, I think I line them more and more. We had somebody in the comments, Jesse, our buddy. We have a special thing from Jesse that I'll do in a minute. Just commented that it should be around 40 to 50 strikes for each room. So the line's pretty good, and they're getting much better at these lines. But I like the more and more here. Go to playmkf.com/wewantpicks, and you can play this line as well and triple your money. So very quickly, Jacob, we're going to do something special here. So we have built an amazing community here. The amount of people you see in the comments with crowns on because they're incredible. Super chats that you see come through these live feeds is incredible. We have such an unbelievable community that we've built. We've only been doing this for 4 or 5 months. Everybody comes here, contributes, does really amazing things. And one of our very, amazing community members, Jesse Correa, I said it right this time. I didn't say it like a Brazilian. Let me just play the video and I'll let him explain what he's doing for us.
What up, guys? We Want Picks. This is Jesse. I just want to show you a quick preview of what I'm going to be giving out to Angelo as is my support to the community. You guys become members. He's going to be sending out one of these cards randomly. Should be getting more as I open boxes just like these. I'm going to open this high impact 2016 box where they have 1 autograph per box. Let's see what we get. But as for now, I'm just going to be showing you guys these, just showing my support and keep doing what you guys do. Making some money for everybody and while that, just really having fun. keep that building, that community, that chat room, and everybody just, it's awesome. And I just want to show my support by giving these out. And so go ahead and hit that join button. And yeah, let's see what we get on the next one.
So thank you very much, Jesse. So what Jesse's doing is,
First of
if you
all,
don't know,
I had no idea that was happening. Jesse, that's incredible. First of all, Jesse, send them to me and I'll make sure that they get
no,
out to the
he
right
has
people.
my address.
Send them to
I'm
me.
the one that makes things
Send
move
them
here.
to me and I will take care of everything. I will take care of everything.
And
we got a super chat too from Logan. Thank you. My dog was sick.
Thank you,
He's
Logan,
feeling better.
very
We
much.
appreciate that, Logan.
It's appreciated. So, Jesse, a loyal community member here. What we were doing, if you're new here and you don't know what's going on, what we were doing is to encourage people to become members. We were giving people Dan Kramer Topps UFC cards. Dan Kramer is the other member of this show, and Dan Kramer fought in the UFC. So he has Topps trading cards. We're basically running out. There's only, they're from 2009. There's only a limited supply. So Jesse reached out and said, you know what? I love you guys. I'm going to help you guys out. I have a bunch of cards, duplicates, extras, etc. I'm going to send you guys the cards and you can give those out to new members to continue.
And those were the boxes. Those were the boxes, Jesse, that I thought I was buying when I bought that Corey Sandhagen autograph. I thought I was getting a box of cards just like that. I opened it up. I have a Corey Sandhagen autograph. Unreal.
That's a whole separate topic we'll get into later. But either way, thank you very much, Jesse. It is incredibly appreciated. And anybody watching, if you want to become a member and you want to support the channel, you appreciate what we're doing, you appreciate how we're doing, click the join button below, and we will send you one of those amazing UFC trading cards, whether it's one of the last very few Dan Kramer ones or one of the ones that Jesse is sending our way. It is incredibly appreciated. Thank you, Jesse, and thank you everybody else in the community that is wearing a crown, which is one of the benefits after you click the join button. You guys are unbelievably appreciated. We did not expect this level of love this early on, so it is appreciated. Next up at UFC Vegas 29, we have Matt Brown versus Diego Lima. Diego Lima, 3-2 in his last 5. Matt Brown, 2-3 in his last 5. We've broken down Diego Lima before. I know Diego Lima pretty well. I spent a week with him in Turkey. So I manage a bunch of fighters. If you're new here, you don't know that. I manage professional fighters.
I was fighting on the same card. Go ahead.
Yep. So my buddy Ryan was fighting for the XFC. The XFC did a show in Turkey, and technically the island of Cyprus, which is in between Greece and Turkey. Ryan was fighting Diego Lima. So we flew out to Turkey. We spent a whole week with Diego Lima and his brother, Douglas Lima, who was the Bellator champion up until 2 nights ago. Diego Lima could not be a nicer person. The dude is funny. He has good jiu-jitsu, good striking.
Are you going to say that he's going to lose his fight?
Can I do my breakdown?
Are you going to say that he's going to lose his fight?
Can I do my breakdown? Good jiu-jitsu, good striking, awesome dude. We picked against him when he fought Bilal Muhammad. And the reason we
Well,
you're an idiot if you didn't.
I picked Diego.
Picked a loser.
I had him in my lineup.
Okay. What a weird flex. What a weird flex.
It's called loyalty. I mean, Jesus.
Okay. Anyway.
I don't even know the guy, and I picked him. And I'm picking him again.
All right. So with Diego Lima, I picked against him last fight because I managed a fighter who fought him and won, and I saw what that took, and it was offensive wrestling to make that happen with control.
And what happened?
And Diego Lima got wrestled and lost. What do you
think so? That's what you remember? Do you know what Bilal's takedowns were that fight?
Oh, he outstruck him too.
1 of 10.
Actually,
one
you're right.
Of
You're
10. He
100%
stuffed every single takedown and was mowing down Bilal's leg. Bilal said after the fight, I can't walk. I'm not going to be able to walk.
No, you're 100% correct. That's exactly what happened. Diego Lima spent his entire training camp worrying about takedowns and didn't train striking. Either way, this is a very different fight. A very, very different fight.
Yes,
we have Matt Brown, nicknamed the Immortal, and he basically is, obviously his recent streak is not great, but Matt Brown is a trying type of guy. Diego Lima is going to light up Matt Brown's legs, and Matt Brown's not going to stop coming forward. Matt Brown will continue to march forward. Matt Brown has power. Matt Brown has underrated wrestling.
Matt Brown has toughness, and that's about it at this point.
And Diego Lima has very crisp striking. Diego Lima has very tricky jiu-jitsu. This is a very, very hard fight to pick. This is a rematch, by the way, from 14 years ago. This is a very hard fight. With that being said, I'm not confident enough to play Diego Lima at -170. -170 is, that's a giant favorite, right? That should be a guarantee. I'm waiting to see what the lines do.
He fought Douglas, not Diego.
I'm pretty sure Matt Brown fought Diego Lima.
He fought Douglas Lima and then Diego Sanchez.
All right. Well, then I put those together. There's no
unreal.
I'm going to pull that up. But anyway, the other factor going into this is Diego Lima, his brother, Douglas. They're unbelievably close. Douglas went on that trip to Cyprus with us. Douglas just lost a few nights ago, and that's really hard, right? That's really hard to beat. They are ride or die together, and his brother just lost.
And he got kind of embarrassed too. Was just on his back the entire fight.
And we bet against that too. And again, it was another wrestler type situation, and Dan and I put some solid money on the wrestler there.
We do lead a very adventurous lifestyle.
What are you doing?
Sure Dog literally just pops up out of nowhere. I was looking at the fight.
Anyway, this is a very roundabout way. I think Matt Brown is a very solid underdog pick. I'm not saying this is a mess. Like when Court McGee fought a few weeks ago, I was like, they're crazy. Court McGee wins this fight. And Court McGee won that fight, and he looked great doing it. Matt Brown is not Court McGee. They're aging very differently. They've absorbed different damage throughout their career. But I do think Matt Brown is very live in this fight. I think Diego's brother losing, it sounds so stupid, but I manage professional fighters. I understand how emotional that can be, especially for these guys. They're training partners, they're best friends, like everything about it. I have Matt Brown winning this fight. It is not the most confident pick I've ever had in my entire life. I'm going more and more on Monkey Knife Fight. I have no bets on this whatsoever. I'll wait to see what the props do later in the week. If they start to go crazy, I'll take a look at that. But Jacob, I guess you're picking Diego Lima.
I am picking Diego. He's in my lineup. I don't like a lot of the expensive fighters, and this is the one I felt the best about.
You went $9,000 on Diego Lima?
I thought we weren't interrupting each other, Angelo.
Oh my God.
Matt Brown is not going to he's not going to be able to get the takedowns. He's going to get his legs chewed up, and he doesn't. The thing that Bilal won the fight, he couldn't get the takedowns, but he won with the striking because he won with volume. Bilal had crazy volume. I don't think Matt Brown's going to have the volume. He's older. I think the second that front leg gets chewed up, it's going to slow him down quite a bit, and I think Diego's going to be able to fight the fight that he wants to fight. He's not going to be quite worried about the takedowns as much as he was against Bilal. If they come, they'll stuff him, and I think he just piece him up. I don't think he's going to finish because Matt Brown is. I mean, he is tough as hell, man. But yeah. I think he's going to score 1,000,000 points just with strikes and win the fight. So he's in my lineup. And like I said, this is more of like I had to pick somebody expensive because you can't. I mean, I guess you could have like $1,000 left over, and this is just kind of the one that fell to me. Was Diego Lima at $9,000. So it wasn't like I want to pick him because he's going to finish him. It's like I kind of stuck with I had to pick somebody. So I'm going with my man Diego. I picked him against Bilal. He actually scored the most points of anyone on the card in a loss against Bilal Muhammad. So if you're going to pick losses, he still scored a ton of points against Bilal. So, but he's going to win this fight. He'll dominate.
Listen, that's a great breakdown. I agree with everything you said. I just maybe I am putting too much stock into his brother losing last week. I mean, they are best friends, training partners. Like that's emotional. And now he's got to go out there a week later and do it himself against the guy that will never stop marching forward. So Diego Lima should win. I think these odds are absolutely correct. With that being said, I think Matt Brown's a very solid underdog pick. I told you I'm not betting money on this. But I'm not touching DraftKings either. $9,000 to me, that's got to be a guaranteed win and a stoppage. There's no stoppage here. But I may max bet the more. Like this more is a guarantee. I literally may max bet that.
I agree. Before you when I looked at that too, I could definitely see Diego outstriking him 2-1 or 3-1, but Matt Brown's going to get 50 or 60, and Diego's going to be 2-1 on top of
And
that.
there's no stoppage here.
Yeah, I don't think there's a stoppage.
No. So yeah, I that's a max play, man. So listen, I know I'm a corporate shill here pushing some of these things, but go to playmkf.com/wewantpicks. Make a deposit using promo code WWP. They'll instantly match that. Take the free money. They'll match it up to 100. If you're confident enough, deposit 100. Take the free 100 and put it on this line. The more. I mean, this might be the most confident I've ever been in a line. I don't think I've seen one before where I was like, "Yup." So I just jinxed the hell out of it. So maybe you don't want to play it, but I do love
Matt
that.
Brown's going to come over and just starch him now.
I don't see a stop. If there's a stoppage, it's Matt Brown getting it, honestly, is how I see it. But I think Matt is a phenomenal underdog play. I think Jacob is spot on with the analysis with Diego. He's going to light up Matt Brown's legs. But Matt Brown never stops, marches forward, and has some of the most underrated wrestling that you'll see. People just don't even think of him as a wrestler because he's so willing to stand in a pocket and throw elbows. Dan's not here. Dan shared an Ultimate Fighter house with Matt Brown. So when Dan is back on Friday, we'll get his opinion on this fight for sure. Next up, we have the co-main event of the evening. We have Alexei Oleinik versus Sergey Spivak. Alexei Oleinik, submission or bust if you have ever seen it. Sergey Spivak made Jason Vandera look like an absolute clown after we thought Jason Vandera might have had some decent wrestling. Alexei Oleinik 2-3 in his last five.
I was right as usual.
Spivak 3-2 in his last five. Alexei Oleinik, somebody just commented, Jesse did, wow, what a record. That is a record. Alexei Oleinik may have the most experience of anybody on the active UFC roster right now. And this is a sleeper fight. We've done well off of both of these fighters in the past, depending on the situation. Ridiculous. Alexei Oleinik with the ridiculous experience, as we pointed out. He is a grappler who has a very high finishing rate. The problem is his chin is gone with his age. It's the first thing to go, and it did go. His cardio isn't great. His wrestling is just okay, but he can submit anybody from anywhere. He's very ugly when he gets it to the ground, but when he gets it to the ground, he's legitimately dangerous from anywhere. And what's crazy is he's not like, oh, Jacare Souza, 10-time world champion. None of that crap. He's just like unbelievably aggressive and sneaky on the ground. I purposely didn't say tricky. And then we have Sergey Spivak. He destroyed Jason Vandera in his last fight. Great ground and pound. He has actual wrestling skills. And this is set up for Spivak to win. This is like sort of a passing of the guard. Look at you making that face. Spivak does not have the KO power, but he does have a really good jab. He has much better takedowns. I see him grappling, but I see him just getting positions, elbowing the mouth. There may be a stoppage, but this is another one more on the monkey knife fight line. I think Sergey Spivak is on top this entire fight, landing blows. Alexei Oleinik not getting that haymaker submission. Jacoby, you made some faces. What are you thinking?
Yeah, the only thing that scares me is Sergey's willingness to go to the ground, right? Because he's definitely got the striking advantage in this fight. And with Oleinik's chin, I would hope that he just stands and just tries to knock Oleinik out. Otherwise, I think I would pick Oleinik in this fight just because Sergey would use his wrestling, but I definitely don't trust Oleinik's chin enough to pick him. And on the flip side, I think Sergey, if he doesn't want to use his offensive grappling, can use his defensive wrestling to, alleviate the takedowns from Oleinik, and then it turns into a boxing match. And with Alexei's chin, Sergey could end this early. So this was another one where I got to spend my money somewhere. So I went with Sergey just because we've seen Oleinik's chin lately. He could just get dropped at any time. It doesn't even have, at this point, it doesn't even have to be a power shot. It honestly could just be a nice stiff jab that puts Oleinik down at this point in his career. I'm just worried that Sergey comes out, tries to shoot a takedown for whatever reason, and gets caught in a guillotine or something, a triangle, something weird. Because if you get on the ground with a Oleinik, I don't care how good you are, you don't want. You don't want to be there. So it's like I don't know why Sergey would come out and grapple, but that's what he does at times. Even if he hurts someone, sometimes he just jumps on top of him. So I just hope that he just boxes, puts Oleinik down, and makes me smart for my $9,200 because I'm worried about it, but I got to spend my money somewhere. So
I have Spivak in my lineup too. So, and we're doing our DraftKings breakdown after this. We're not doing it live, so wait for that video. But I have Spivak in my lineup. I'm very confident in this, and I'm just very confident in his wrestling offense, his submission defense, and you don't even need the greatest hand in the world at this point. But like I said, I love this line. I'm gonna go more and more because I do think it goes to a decision or close to it. The only bet I have on this fight, so everybody is either saying Alexei Oleinik gets a first-round submission or Sergey Spivak gets, just knocks him out, right? Everybody thinks this ends in the first round. I completely disagree. I think this at least goes 2 or 3 rounds. I bet the over on the rounds because the over was only 1.5 rounds. This definitely gets to the end of the second round. Definitely, or at least past the halfway point of the second round. So I took that at plus 135. If you want to take that bet, go to wewantpicks.com/bets. There's a bunch of different options for you. Hop in there, make a deposit. Let us know your username after you create your account, and we will just straight up Venue you money as a thank you for signing up. Jacob, do you love that strike line as much as I do?
Yeah, what did you say on the strike line? I was watching. Somebody mentioned the Nets game. I'm watching the Nets are up 3, 11 seconds left.
Yeah, I see the chat going crazy about the Nets game. I'm going more and more on the strike line.
Oh man, this is another one where it's like Jesus.
Why? What are you?
Because Oleinik's, I'm worried about Oleinik's chin. I mean, he had, I think I'd go. I'll go more. Is that what you said? More.
I went more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the safer play, honestly. Because a lot of times when you start chasing finishes, it's just like when you're betting, right? I mean, it's just like if you place bets to chase finishes, it's great when it hits, but there's so much more to the fight than just, that. So if I were playing this, I would play the more.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a finish is a concern, but I listen, I have Spivak in my lineup. So if I lose monkey knife fights and I get 100 points out of DraftKings, it is what it is. I'll take it. So that's the co-main event. I actually think it's a sleeper fight. I think it'll be a really good fight. A ton of experience versus a young guy who's pretty hungry. Looking forward to it. Go to playmkf.com/wewantpicks. Play monkey knife fights. Place a bet. Let us know in the comments what you are going to do. Next up at UFC Vegas 29.
Main event.
The main event of the evening. We have the Korean zombie.
It's time.
Okay, I'll wait. We have the Korean zombie Chan Seung Jung versus Dan Ige. Korean zombie is 3-2 in his last 5, coming off of that devastating loss to Brian Ortega. That was a very lopsided loss. And then we have Dan Ige, 4-1 in his last 5, coming off of.
I want you to apologize to Dan Ige for your last breakdown, please, if you don't mind.
Because I had Kevin Tucker winning?
I think all of you guys had Devin, and I'm the guy that's like, I'm telling you guys. I'm telling you. So I'd like a public apology if you don't mind.
Listen, in all honesty, you can't really tell much from a fight that ends that quickly. From
I learned everything in that fight.
Let me go ahead and give you the breakdown, Jacob. So this should be an awesome fight, and I think these odds are correct, which means it is a pick'em. Korean Zombie is a slight favorite as far as DraftKings are concerned, but this is a pick'em across the board. The Korean Zombie has been around forever. He has phenomenal striking. He has great grappling. He has very high fight IQ. And if he didn't lose to Brian Ortega in his last fight, I think everybody on planet Earth would say Korean Zombie dominates this fight. Korean Zombie wins this fight. But he did lose that last fight, and he did not look good at all. I mean, Brian Ortega, Jacob has an issue with Brian Ortega because of Brian's girlfriend, but Brian Ortega beat
my ex. Well, it's his girlfriend now. It's my ex-girlfriend. Kind of.
Beat the absolute brakes.
Not technically, but I mean, it's kind of like kind of.
You let me know when you're done with your.
Well, I just want to say, Tracy, I'm just disappointed. Honestly, I'm disappointed in your choices, but it's got what's that? That's a free bird. Sometimes you got to let them fly away and hope they come back. So Tracy, I'll be here.
Okay. Anyway, no, you won't. You're moving apartments. So, Korean Zombie. If you look at his
I'm not. I'm upgrading, Tracy. Let's get it. I mean, I'm upgrading. I'm upgrading.
Korean Zombie has fought some of the best people on planet Earth and beat most of them. He absolutely smoked my buddy Frankie Edgar, and he has one of the most exciting. His fights are exciting. He is good everywhere. He's incredibly tough. He is the Korean Zombie for a reason. What's that stat with the ridiculous chokes? Like the dude is amazing, but his last fight has everybody questioning him and his abilities and what he can do. And then Dan Ige's last fight has everybody, and I can see it in the comments here. I haven't seen a single person pick Korean Zombie. Everybody's picking Dan Ige, and I think there's some recency bias in that with Dan Ige coming off of that wild knockout, Korean Zombie coming off of that really bad loss. With that being said, Dan Ige is on a great little streak there. He's got a loss.
Little streak. What the hell?
Well, because
I've never seen such disrespect. Honestly.
He lost to Calvin Qatar less than a year ago. So it's a little streak. He's got a great little streak there. This is a big step up in competition, but he is much faster, has much more power, and is the more technical boxer. I'm going with Dan Ige. I have wins inside the distance, and decision, no action is my bet. So basically, I'm saying Dan Ige will win by stoppage, or if it goes to a decision, I get a refund. And that's how I see this fight going. I think Korean Zombie either wins a decision or Dan Ige gets a finish here. What are your thoughts there, Jacob? You made faces at both sides of it, so I don't even know where you are in this pick.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, but let me just first start by saying that Dan Ige is going to win this fight. I don't think he's going to win it like in quite the dominant fashion I would like. I love Dan Ige. I've talked about Dan Ige for a couple of years now. I think by this time next year, he's fighting for a title. I think that's good. How good he is, because I think the Korean Zombie is ranked like 4th or 5th, and Dan's like 9th. So he'll jump up in the top 5 and eventually get that title shot once they figure out the Ortega, Aleksa Volkanovski, I guess.
Volkanovski, yeah.
I kept thinking of Hernandez for some reason.
You got to wait for the show to finish.
Yeah, Volkanovski, Ortega, and then you got Holloway there. Once that's all cleared up and they have a champion, I think Ige is going to be the next shot. I think he wins this fight. That's nothing against the Korean Zombie. I think the Korean Zombie is very, very good. But I think he just relies on his toughness a little too much. And against Dan Ige, you're just going to get absolutely mauled. If you thought the Ortega fight was bad, this one might end up being even worse. With that being said, Korean Zombie is also in my lineup. I have both of them in my lineup. I haven't doubled up the main. I haven't doubled up the main event, and I don't know how long. But this is like one of those fights where I just feel like it could be like one of those all-time great fights. It's an absolute war back and forth. But I see Dan Ige finding ways to get the fight to the ground and dominating on the ground. I just think he's a step ahead of the Korean Zombie in the striking, in the grappling, in the submissions. But it's just the way that this card, like I said, I like a lot of underdogs on this card. So it's kind of like a weird situation where I had a lot of money left over. So I figured, you know what, there's definitely worse places you could put $8,200 than on the Korean Zombie. And even if I think Ige is going to win, I think that the Korean Zombie in a 5-round fight with his toughness could still score 70, 80 points in a loss if this ends up being a brawl. So I have both of them in my lineup, although I'm a big Dan Ige fan. I think he fights for the title next year, and I think he wins the fight.
Well, the comment section here, the live chat, because we are live, even if you're watching this later, is just like 100% Ige. I think I saw maybe one.
Well, yeah, when I saw DraftKings money, I was like, oh my God. Technically, I could have made Dan Ige my lock of the week. So Dan Ige is going to be the backup lock of the week because it is a pick 'em, but he's the underdog on DraftKings. So technically the rules are, I can put Dan Ige in my lineup, but I mean that he can be the lock of the week.
In my lineup. I do have in my lineup. I think this is a very close fight. I do think it goes to a decision, but I told you the bet that I placed was Dan Ige wins inside the distance. But if it goes to a decision, I get a refund. I get my money back. That bet never happened because I don't think Korean Zombie can stop Dan Ige. And I do think Danny Gay can stop Korean Zombie, but if he doesn't, great. I get my money back. No problem. And if you want to place that bet or one like it, go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. There's a bunch of different options for you to get deposit matches or literally free money from us. The Monkey Knife Fight line is crazy. I think it's more and more. I agree with you because I think it should be a 5-round fight. That's why my bet on win on inside the distance has the insurance of decision.
I think if this was a 3-round fight, that would be a good strike line because I think they could throw the volume to hit that in 3 rounds. And this is a 5-round fight. And like I said, they're both tough as hell. So I don't see an early stoppage. So yeah, I love them more and more on this one.
Yeah, I like them more and more as well. So go to playmkf.com/2onpicks. Play them more and more. You literally triple your money with a play. That is our breakdown. Thank you very much for watching. We'll stick around for another minute or two and hit some comments. But if you're watching this on replay, thank you very much.
Subscribe,
and let us know in the comments.
Like the video. Become a member. Because eventually because we're going to start going live like on Friday nights, maybe after our videos we talked about, and that might end up being like a members only type thing. So if you guys love the chat, you love answering or asking questions and the back and forth, become a member because eventually, there might be parts in live videos where it's just members only chat. That way we can really narrow down to our members. So become a member.
Sure. I'm going to take the fight stuff off the screen. We'll chat for another few minutes here, hit up some comments. Because I think we got what we needed to out of this video. James, subscribe to the channel if you don't already subscribe. We broke this fight down in detail the same way we just did the main event. So I'm assuming you hopped into this live chat a little late. Literally just rewind. We did a whole breakdown on that fight and every other fight on this entire card. Every single one. So anybody else, if you have any quick questions, let us know. If not, we are going to drop so we can record our DraftKings breakdown video. We appreciate it. If you liked this live stream format, let us know. We're sort of experimenting with it to see if we can move towards more live stuff. The recording. I'm okay with both. My only concern is the live stuff. I don't know if it lives as long on YouTube as the pre-recorded stuff. Jacob looking at the TV. David Ramon said, "How about the?"
No, it's supposed to look like I'm looking at you, like listening to you.
Oh, well, yeah, good job. Yeah, great job.
David, what Pacers fans? Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, asking me to run back all of our picks again. Yeah, let me do that. Finally, Antsy Music. We got somebody picking the Korean Zombie. You're literally the only person I've seen in the chat picking the Korean Zombie. Thank you all very much for hopping in here.
James, there's 4 of us, James, there's 4 of us.
What do you say? How many of y'all are a part of the channel? Yeah, 4 of us. So James.
These are the professional fighters, and then we got 2 other guys.
The channel is myself. I have managed fighters for 15 years. Dan Kramer, who is an American top team staple, fought in the UFC, fought in Bellator, and Nick Newell, the one-arm fighter that you just saw fight a few days ago, another long-time Bellator fighter, and Jacob, who's our buddy, who's funny and does
Jacob, I'll tell you what, I just banned David. We lost a member, guys. Can we get a rest in peace in the chat for David Ramon? He's gone.
So anyway, the channel, anybody new here, the channel is 2 professional fighters, a long-time fight manager. I've managed everybody, I've managed people in the UFC, the XFC, Bellator, all the regional shows across the board. And then Jacob, who, does his little song and dance, makes some faces, stuff like that. Anyway.
Lock of the week is not Ige. Don't listen to him.
So, James, you've been watching us for a minute and glad that your picks are going pretty good against us. You're picking against us and you're winning. That doesn't sound correct, especially after all the money we won last week and the week before. Anyway, thank you all very much for hopping in. We appreciate it. Dan will be back for all of the Friday stuff. He'll be back for all the Friday stuff, our DraftKings breakdown, the betting odds, all that stuff. Danny Boy will be back, and we'll have him break down a few of these fights if he has some insight. And don't forget, I'm bringing that Parker Porter. All right, James clarified, not against, but in those close fights, he goes good. Parker Porter, he fought one of the fighters on this card. Parker Porter is a actual personal friend of mine. I managed him years ago. Great dude. I called him today. I said, do me a favor, do a breakdown of the which fight is it?
The sloppy
Josh
fight.
Parisian Roque Martinez fight. He's putting that together. As soon as I get that, I'll upload it for you all. Thank you all very much. We appreciate everything. If you are watching and you don't subscribe, just click subscribe. It literally costs you nothing and it means everything to us. Comment down below. We appreciate the support. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Jesse, for the member gift. And we will see all of you guys on Saturday.